Health, happiness, everything in between. I am Vernon Brown, representing Happy Meals, showing you every day, 8:45 Eastern, 7:45 Central, different ways you can perceive life. And this week, been really focusing on interpreting life, and how you can interpret life a little bit better. Let me turn this light down. It's a little bit too bright. There we go. It was blinding me at first. It's about different ways you can start perceiving life, right? Because perceptions are everything. Um, and it's about seeing it through today, seeing things through. Judge not by appearances, judge not by, how things might not appear, is another way of saying it. In most cases, what I'm really referring to is you cannot get so focused on what one person's perception of you and automatically assume it's going to be your fate. It's going to be your reality. It's only a reality once you accept it. This is something I'm going to be talking about myself personally with, one of my health struggles. Because contrary to popular belief, people who might be more focused on being in shape, and I'm not saying that people ultimately believe this, but sometimes people think persons who might be in better shape, who might make different decision that puts them, in a more, solid place physically, that bad things don't happen or the unexpected doesn't happen with health. This happened many, 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 many years ago, and it like really changed so much about how I even show up and perceive some things. Because when you first get some initial data, let me just dive right into this. And this was years ago. It was like a couple days after my birthday. And I'm having fun. I'm rocking it out. I'm driving go karts. And I remember clearly, like all of a sudden, I was trying to breathe, trying to figure things out. I was trying to breathe like just like normal, right? And all of a sudden, it's like it felt like my chest got tight. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I'm like driving and I'm like, and all of a sudden, asthmatics are in my family. My brother and sister are asthmatics. I'm like, what is happening? So I got out of the go kart. And this, back when I lived in Richmond. And I'm like, something's not right. I knew, SOB, shortness of breath. I know all about those. And I'm like, I need to go to the doctor. I'm like, go to like urgent care. I felt like I needed like an inhaler, from what I believed it would feel like. It just seemed really tight, but it was really starting to get tighter. I was freaked out. I was scared. No lie. So I drove straight to patient first. Drive the patient first. I get out of the car, and I'm driving myself there. Very dumb thing to do, mind you, especially just roll with me. So as I'm driving to the doctor, I go into the urgent care. I'm like, hey, look, I'm having problems breathing. And they were like, oh, okay. And so she immediately grabbed me and she's like, you want to go to the hospital? I'm like, no. Like, I feel like I just need an inhaler. I'm thinking it was something simple. She comes up to me and she's like, all right, let me get you checked in. Took my weight and she put the blood pressure cuff around my arm. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And as she's pumping it, she's like, "Ch, ch." And as she's pumping, I'm like looking at her and I see her eyes and it goes from kind of like this, almost neutral, facet to her eyes gets bigger. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, what's going on? And her eyes get really big and she goes, "Sss," lets the blood pressure cuff go. And she's like, you need to get out of here right now. I said, what do you mean? She says, whatever you're doing, I'm calling an ambulance. I'm like, what is going on? And she said, you need to get to the hospital immediately. And I'm like, what? Immediately, I forgot all about the SOBs, the shortness of breath. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm calling an ambulance. Just remain calm. Your boy got up and I got out of that seat and I flew to the hospital. I wasn't waiting. I was scared. I mean, it was so stupid now that I think about it and, talk with you about it now, but it was so stupid. And this is how life sometimes can catch you. When you know better, you do better. Some people might call this the Monday morning coach, because, oh man, I should have done this. I should have done that. Well, guess what? You didn't. So, putting that aside, go to the hospital. I walked in. I'm like, they told me to come here. She's like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I'll never forget it. They were like, okay. And, I waited a few minutes and they got me triage and everything. Went back there. And they just started like working. I can't remember everything. I'll be honest with you. And I can't remember. I just saw one nurse came in, a doctor came in. And then I'm sitting in the bed. I'm like, what the is going on? What in the French toast is happening? And so I'm sitting and I'm like laying in the bed and I'm hooked up to the machine and this doctor comes in, really very beautiful soul. And she walked up to me. You know when you can just pick up on the person's got skill, ability, intelligence, charisma, charm. Like a very appealing, bedside manner. And she's, older lady, and she says, "Hey, Mr. Brown, how are you?" I said, "I'm great, I think." And she started laughing, and she, smiled and said, "I want to let you know something. You're in a very scary situation." And I was like, "For two reasons." And I said, "Okay." And because I looked at myself, right, and I was maybe about 15 pounds heavier. I looked at myself. I looked healthy. Everything looked good. And she said, "Do you know that you had pneumonia? That you've had pneumonia?" I'm like, "Pneumonia? No." And she says, "How's your energy been?" I'm like, It's fine, I guess." And she said, It's amazing that you're able to walk with the amount of fluid in your lungs." I said, "What?" And she says, "You haven't been able to take deep breaths, have you?" And I'm sitting there, I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Right? Because I went from, riding go kart, shortness of breath, to patient first, to the hospital, now telling me I have pneumonia. And she says, "We're treating that. We're working really hard. But what I'm about to tell you, I think it's best for you to have someone here." And it's scared the living heck out of me. And I'm like, "What?" And she said, "You are about to have a life altering stroke." I said, "Excuse me?" And she says, "You are about to have a life altering stroke." And, the number is, my blood pressure was like 190 over like 190, something ridiculous like that, 190 over 200 or something like that. And I said, "What?" And then it made sense why they took my blood pressure at patient first. And they're like, "You got to get out of here," while all the nurses and doctors are coming in. And it scared me so bad. I cannot express to you how scared I was. I laid there by myself, laying in that room. And I realized that, I was looking at myself and thinking I looked fine. And I was getting regular checkups, but I didn't put that much stock into my health. I mean, I did, but in terms of getting a doctor's visits, and I'm sure I was taking maybe like some supplements. I've never ran like steroids or gear or anything like that, but I was taking like amino acids and a few, protein powders and things, thinking everything was fine. But when she told me that, and it was the scariest moment I've ever had in my life, the scariest moment I've ever had in my life. Because it's another thing for it just to happen, but to be told you're about to, it changed so much of my psychology. And why I was even talking about this, is because you can't judge by appearances sometimes. Things can look really good. Sometimes we can look at people's lives and think, "Oh man, I wish I had it like that." You don't know all the dirty details. You don't know what they could be experiencing. And then sometimes in life, we compare ourselves to people. And then sometimes in life, we look at other people or look at other things and wish we had something like that, but you don't know all the details. Now, with my health, I didn't have that massive stroke. I'm here to say now I have perfect blood pressure. Blood pressure. It's like 122 over 80. But what that moment taught me was I felt fine. I looked fine. I was not fine. And now I'm so adamant. I go to the doctor at least 2 to 4 times a year just to get my blood work done, just to check things. And my clients know how I am. I made I asked and somewhat demanded some people, every single client last year, you have to get your blood work done. And then my clients know every year, expect me to bring up the medical conversation. Get your physical for ladies. For men, go get your blood work. I'm not your mom. I'm not your daddy. I'm the guy who cares about you and wants to make sure that you never get blindsided like that. And exactly. And the grass is not always greener. And when we start looking sometimes to see how other people's lives are, we start looking at these things. And, I'm saying else to say, I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody. I'm not trying to say that I'm this grandiose person, but I've had so many people in that time period and after come up to me. It's like, "Oh, I want to look like you." You don't know my struggles, just like I don't know yours. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. Some of us have better representations of life than, or they might be further along. They might have different things, but you don't know. Do not judge by appearances. But that was a big wake up call for me. That was a huge reality check. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so adamant about health. Yes, I love being a happiness coach and helping entrepreneurs succeed. I love that. But my health comes number one. Number one. It always has, or so I thought. And it just made me level up even more. Now I'm so adamant now about, monitoring, things, working alongside doctors that I trust. I'm just going to drop that there. doctors that I believe, and to have my best advocates. But for many of us right now, moving myself aside and talking about this comparison thing, when you walk out of that door or when you log into your account and you see people, remember, you could have the best mindset in your mind, right? You can have the best foresight, the best perception because, oh, I'm just looking to help myself goal set. I'm just looking to see what I can do. But if you have comparison in your heart, it's game over. It is game over. I recognize that comparison, it can be in small doses, it can be like, oh, this is what I can achieve, but not a judgment of where I'm not looking at someone and assuming, hey, maybe I want a body that looks like that. But I don't look at them, and I'm strongly suggesting don't look at people and assume that life is easier for them. Just because someone makes more money does not mean their life is easier. In most cases, it's not. You don't see everything, you don't know everything. So the long and short of this is focus on you. Focus on you. Everything that's happening right now, some people are screaming recession. I'm screaming the Genesis. This can be the beginning or this can be the end. It's up to you. I'm a strong believer this can be the beginning. Huge believer, but judge not by appearances. Make sure that you understand that sometimes what you want comes with a price. It does. And are you willing to pay that price? But look, I hope everyone got kind of the point of this and took from it what you will. Eat the meat and spit out the bone is something that I will be saying often because you might not like some of it, but at least take a little bit of it. At least consider a different perspective. Go out there this week, make some things happen. Lynn, I appreciate you so much and appreciate you dropping a comment. And for anybody who has any questions, because another great story, this is going to be about a client tomorrow. I will see you then. If you got any questions or if you'd like to schedule a session, hit me up, shoot me a message, drop me a comment. I'll be seeing you all tomorrow. Stay happy, stay healthy, and everything in between. Vernon out.